Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of XPlicit Materia, the podcast where a nerdy drummer talks with friends, old and new. And it's been a while since I've actually had a friend I've actually had some history with, and with my following guest here, we have a lot of history together, and she is a filmmaker, but also now an awesome drummer in an awesome, cool, old school punk band. And I can't be more proud of her. And I'm so glad that she's here now. And we are speaking finally after so long, but here we are.
What up? Hey, thanks for having me.
How have you been?
I've been really good. I've been really, really busy because releasing a record is an overwhelming experience if you don't have anyone doing it for you. And I think about all of my friends who have released amazing albums and like pressed the sickest vinyls and all this stuff. And I like look back on that now that I have this experience that I'm going through, and I kind of like I want to call everyone and be like, hey, I get how much work that was over the last like 15 years that you've been doing this. And I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, especially because not only, okay, so let's talk about it. Your band is called the Fauxs, and
FAU
FAU, which
rhymes with hose.
Of course. If anyone needs a reminder on how words rhyme. So the band is called the Fauxs, and I had the pleasure of listening to the entire album. By the way, any song that has the phrase "tough titties" is, I mean, when I heard that, I was like, yes, tough titties. You're like, no one ever says that, and so when you hear it, you're just like, ah.
Yep.
But anyway, the album's super cool. It's very, like I said earlier, it's like old school Misfits punk, kind of like the birth of punk rock kind of music. And what's also really impressive, not only are you drumming in it and your fills are tasteful and exactly what they need to be, which I'm so impressed with. Not only that, but you also produced and engineered the record yourself.
Yeah.
That's it, and it sounds incredible. Like, not only are you this fantastic, filmmaker, you just said, you know what, I'm just gonna go over here and follow this and become a drummer and an engineer and produce. I'm gonna do this record, and here you are. It's so good. I'm so proud of you. That's awesome.
Thank you so much, and I'm glad that you like the record. It's like, I don't know, like you probably have an experience with this because you create so much stuff these days, but like in my film career, there's like very few times can I like look back on a project and think like, wow, I really think this is like objectively good. It might not be like a thing, like a genre that someone likes. It might not be whatever, but like this record is one of those things where like I look at it and I can almost see it from like a detached point of view. And I'm actually like, we made a good record. And I tell that to my bandmates all the time. I'm like, y'all, we made a good record. And that's like, I'm so excited. Like, I can't wait for it to come out.
That's always a good feeling. Cause you there are times where you put in the work, and it's really hard to do, to separate yourself and look at it from the outside. Cause sometimes you get just too attached to something, especially if it's like that one little part, and you're just like
90% of the things that I've done, I feel like are shit, at least at some point after they're done, where I'm just like, wow, put a lot of time into this for nothing. And then like I warm up to it later, kind of, but
yeah, once you take a break and look back at it, you're like, oh, that's actually not bad.
Yeah, totally.
Or the opposite, where you think something is really good, and then you look back at it and you're like, I'm awful. Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why is anyone like this?
Yeah. It's like the creative process is really kind of like interesting. I have a couple music videos that I look back on that I like, that I'm just like, this was exactly what I wanted to do
Yeah,
with like the family
I
crest.
love your stuff with the family crest. I love
Thank
your
you.
stuff. It's just
Thank
it's so beautiful. Like you're so talented in in that space. Like I also remember the Sufferfest the Sufferfest documentary, and I'm like, Jesus, this is like legit. This is so freaking cool. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I always tell my I have a friend. I have a friend who's in the film industry, so you know, I
It's
know a few things.
the funny thing is that like the like over half of my film career has been like how do you try to do as much as you can with no resources at all? And that actually helped a lot with making this like indie record is like how do we make a record that like that does what we want it to do? And like punk records, especially modern ones, a lot of work goes into getting that like garage sound.
Yeah, I was
Like
gonna
if you
ask you
just
about that.
record something like shit with a bunch of shit equipment, like it will sound like shit. And that's the kind of like tricky thing is that like one of the first things I did with the band was I was like, what are some what are some like influences? What are some inspirations that we like want to come out the other side with something that feels like it fits with production wise?
Hmm.
Um, because you kind of need like you need like a focus to start the
Yeah,
project with. You need to have like some kind of goal, even if it's not super tangible, like something to latch onto just so you
yeah.
can make decisions. Um, and like we ended up with a couple records. One of them was an Amyl and the Sniffers record, and then the other one was this band called Be Your Own Pet. And they're just like kind of like lo-fi gritty, like attitudey punk rock records, like modern punk records.
Yeah.
Um and you listen to them and you're just like the vocal processing alone is just like so subtle and you're just like dang, I don't know how they got all these tones.
How
Because if you
did you
just
figure
listen
that
to
out?
it, like I figured it out by just not mixing it myself.
Oh, I see. So you had
No,
someone else mix it for you?
I had someone else
Okay.
mix it. Yeah, I
Okay.
engineered it and then I started mixing it and was just like, I don't think I have the skill set to mix this in a way that it'll like be what I want it to be.
Well, and a lot of that too, it's like I know there's been advancements in plugins and whatnot, but like a lot of it's like, especially with microphones,
Mm.
you if you want that old school like sounding vocal, you're probably going to need the same microphone that they used back in 1968 or whatever. It's like, and I bet you that microphone doesn't even like if it does exist, it's thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I mean it is definitely that and like there is there's an element of like modern production. I guess we're just like getting right into this, but like there's an element of modern production stuff that is like you really can make things sound like other things these days. Like amp emulation for guitars is amazing
Hmm.
now, with like neural DSPs and helixes and stuff. Like, you can really simulate like any amp cab combo you want, and the way that you can get like digital recreations of analog compressors and EQs and get like the classic um like saturators and stuff, tape saturators that like they used in the Abbey Road studios. Like they have things that will just emulate that stuff and it's
Hmm.
really cool. And they do that with microphones now too. Like you can get like they make one of the most classic mics ever is the Neumann U87,
Hmm.
and there are like 5 companies that make clones of that mic. And if you go and you listen with really good headphones and you go on YouTube and you can like listen to shootouts and they're really close. They're like
Yeah, I mean,
they're
yeah, you're
close enough
probably
that
right.
with a little tweak of the EQ, you're just like fixed it, you know?
Yeah.
It's so it's not that there are definitely like gear purists, but if you're making an indie record and you don't have any money, you just don't have that choice.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, don't have the ability to be super super intense about it.
yeah, totally. And I know that you're not like the most like technical nerdy
Oh
person. You've
no,
been getting there with all the stuff you're doing, but like it's
I'm
the reason why like
it's a
I have
miracle.
I'm really proud of you for figuring that out.
Thank you.
But it's just like budgetary stuff like this is an AKG C214 that I use for drum overheads. Yes, the 414 is the classic thing that people use, but that's like a lot more expensive. This is like the little sister to it that's 80% as good.
Yeah.
It just takes a little more love to
Yeah,
like make it sound
and at the end of the day, most people won't even notice the difference. The only people that would notice the difference are, like you said, purists or like
exactly.
super hard nosed
Mhm.
musicians, you know, audiophiles is what we call them.
Yep. Yeah, and it's kind of like it's like how you can shoot something really clean and digital these days, and then you can overlay a film grain onto it. Um, and a lot of people will think like, especially if it ever gets printed back to film, they'll look at it, they'll think that it's film. You know, it's
Yeah.
a handful of people will be like, "You're not tricking me," but like you're not making it for those people anyway, because they're just
Yeah.
critics and like technical people who are in the industry. So
Yeah. So tell me, okay, so I think we've talked about it a little bit, like just as we texted and called each other throughout the years, but like for the podcast, tell me about your transition from film into music, because you were, when we met, you were a lover of music, but you hadn't crossed over to that side of
yeah,
music yet. And
totally.
but you were super into film, and throughout the years you've switched a mindset into music and drums and engineering and all that stuff. So let's talk about your sort of journey into that side.
Cool. It's funny, like when we met, I was just starting the film career thing. Like I was just kind of discovering that.
It's
I think
because of,
I
I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt real quick. It's because of Kara that I'm on the internet at all. Let me just say, because
oh yeah, that's
that was
right.
the first video that I ever put on YouTube, which was literally, was it 2007? I feel like it was 2007 when we put
I think it was 2006. I think it was like a year after YouTube was invented.
That's right. That's right. It was Kara came down, freaking just started filming me doing a little
the,
drum solo, and then it got
the
a million
drunk
views.
the drunk drum solo.
Drunk crazy drummer video.
That
But
was when you lived in a house with all of your bandmates and everybody turned 21 in the same year, and there was just like a rager every 6 weeks
oh,
that would take 2 weeks to recover from, and then like another one would happen, and
it was utter chaos. I'm surprised we're all still living.
yeah, that was a
There were a couple close calls. We almost burned down the house one time. It's actually on YouTube. For those who want to know, I can't remember what the title of it's on YouTube, and I'll find it.
I got engaged after one of them.
That's right. Jeez, gosh,
like,
so much shit happened in that house. Let me tell you.
God.
But anyway, sorry, we diverged.
Anyway.
I'm sorry. So back to you.
Anyway, yeah. So it's funny because I don't know if you do this, but like I played drums in the I was like part-time saxophone, part-time drums in the fourth grade band. And the fifth grade
Splitting
band.
the duties. Okay.
Yeah, where they were just like, hey, we need someone to play drums. Like, can anyone play these 4 beats? And I was like, had never touched a drum set before. And I just like went up and played the beats. And they're like, cool, you could do this. So there are like 3 of us kids who could do it. And so we just kind of like rotated when there was a drummer needed for a song, like who got to play. And then I really wanted to play drums, and my parents got me a practice pad and some sticks. And when you're in grade school, you just like look at it and you're just like, this isn't drums.
this isn't even drum. This is not.
Yeah, this is just a pad with some sticks. And I just like didn't really know what to do with it. And so I don't know, it just sat on a shelf. I never touched it. And then fast forward, I just never played. I always wanted to. But after that fifth grade experience, I like didn't touch another drum set until not that long ago,
Yeah, when
and
did you start taking it super seriously? Because was it what, 5 years ago?
um
6, 7 years ago?
it's like 7 years ago I got an
Okay.
electric kit,
That's right.
something
That's
like
right.
that. And then I always was like a steering wheel drummer, and I built up a lot of independence just in my car. Um and stuff like that. And but like yeah, I got an electric kit um probably like 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
But I had roommates and I was like too self-conscious to even play it. So I like really all I was doing was like some basic kick syncopation exercises on it.
Mhm.
Um, but like would definitely not say I was like a drummer. Then I moved to Portland and I couldn't play it because I lived in like the top floor of a house where it's like paper thin and the vibrations and everything. So I
Yeah.
just didn't touch it for the first 3 years I was in Portland. Um, and then yeah, and then I moved um and like to a new place and I met a couple people that like jammed on guitar, and like this one guy had just like a real shell drum kit but with mesh heads and those little like um kind of those like silent cymbals,
Oh yeah.
those like hole
Yeah.
punch the Zildjian
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just like went over and started jamming with him, and I was like 5.5 years ago, 6 years ago ish. And it was like the first time I'd ever played music with people. And I was like, this is really fun. And I like sucked so bad. And I couldn't make decisions. And I like, like you're not present. You're just focused on like keeping a beat and like what you're playing.
Yeah.
Um, and so then yeah, but we just like kept doing it. And then that turned into my first band, Die Right. And we played like two shows eventually, like right before COVID. The last show was like the night COVID shut everything down in Portland.
Mm.
And that was it. And like and then the world shut down and like all I did was drum, basically. I just played so much drums. Um and I came out of the pandemic like not an amazing drummer, but I at least think of myself as a drummer
Yeah.
now, you know?
I mean,
Um,
when I listen to your record, because like a lot of people make this mistake, especially when they're starting out drums. I made this mistake especially, I guess it depends on your age too, but you need a little bit of wisdom. But you learn this over time. The more you play, is knowing when to play and knowing when not to play, and how you can make how to make fills tasteful, and so that you're not overplaying and letting the other band, like letting the band speak when they need to speak, because it's very easy for especially young drummers who are just getting into it and finally getting some independence with their feet in their hands, and they get a little confident and they're just like, yeah, look at me. It's like, it's so
totally.
easy because drums are super freaking fun.
Hmm.
And when you learn a really hard, cool fill, you want to show to everybody how
Hmm.
you want to show it off. You're like, look at my cool 16 tuplet fill. But again, it's like this battle between, if you're playing in a band setting, like that's cool, that's a cool fill, but it doesn't work with the song. And
Yeah,
so again, back to what I'm saying is, like, when I'm listening to your record, the fills are exactly what they need to be in terms of the song, the music that you're playing.
thank you.
Yeah, it's
And the my favorite thing, like I don't like to do too many takes for stuff. Um, so I think I did 4 takes of every song
that's
on that
great.
record, and it was just like, okay,
That's
which one do I like? And then every once in a while, I would like take the fill from take 3 and put it in but like,
Yeah, you can punch and do stuff like that, but like,
um, and
but
so yeah, I think I just have the benefit of age because I'm old now, and so I'm just like not an 18-year-old trying to like show off. But also I have what I think um is like the singular greatest music community there is, to like take for inspiration. Like
yeah,
you are 75% of the reason why I play drums.
making me blush.
Because I watched you back in Nashville, and we hung out all the time, and I would film all those videos and stuff, and I was just like, I want to learn how to do this so bad. And that was what made me want to do it for like 10 years, was just you. But all my friends, all I have so many amazing musician friends, and I feel like this is like such a weird brain thing, but if you think of your music community and you put your friends in a battle royale against other people's friends, I feel like my friends would win the battle royale. Just the
Probably.
combination of people that I know are just some of the best drummers I can think of, and they're not in big bands or anything, but I just know so many people who are just so good, and I've just watched them, and I've listened to their advice. And my ex-brother-in-law is a producer drummer in LA, and he's the one who taught me that crazy fills and flashy shit and crazy time signatures is not gonna make you a good gigging drummer. And his everything that he was inspired by was just stuff with a super solid backbeat, and just tasty and clean, and just pushes just as much as it needs to, pulls just as much as it needs to, and
Yeah.
kind of like hip hop drums in a way of
Oh
just
yeah. But yeah,
like
but you know what's crazy? Like hip hop drummers go fucking insane when you
I
watch
mean,
live shows.
especially the gospel ones for sure, where
Oh
you're
my
just like,
God.
oh wow, if I play drums 8 hours a day for the next 15 years, maybe I could do that.
I could do maybe one thing that guy
One
did.
thing. Yeah, exactly. It's nuts.
It's like it is every time I watch a gospel drummer, I just want to shut the computer down and I quit. I quit. I can't
Yeah.
I can't begin to do what he's doing. I can't do it. And
Yeah.
so it's like it would take me I would have to quit my job. I would quit drums and literally just not do anything but study hand movements.
Yeah.
Like, not even
Totally.
drums.
It's wild. It
Yeah.
is, and I have this friend in the Bay Area, Javier, who drummed for Happy Body Slow Brain that turned into Rare Futures.
Yeah.
My friend Matt's, band, and he's just unreal. Everybody who knows him, he's that guy who shows up to the first rehearsal because you need him to fill in for because your drummer's not available or whatever. He'll know your entire set on 3 days notice, and he'll play it better than any drummer you've ever
It's
played with.
Javier. Is it Javier Torres?
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I follow him on Instagram and I see his videos. I'm like, Jesus. What
Yeah, and it's
how?
it's it's wild, and but at the same time insanely tasteful, so professional. He knows his stuff, and he is just so solid, and hates doing drum solos. He did a tour with RX Bandits once. I saw him. That was the last time I saw him play live, and they made him do a drum solo every night, and he didn't want to, and they would just leave the stage and just leave him by himself and be like, you're gonna take a few minutes to
Yeah,
yourself,
we're
and
gonna go over here and we're gonna drink a beer, okay? Because we're
yeah.
tired. You go do your thing. We don't even need to work.
Yeah,
We'll let
because
you
it's
take
just
over the show.
it's so abhorrent to the way he plays, that he's just my job is to serve a song, and if there's no song, why would I play? But
Back to your point. About what your ex brother-in-law said is he's absolutely correct. Some of my favorite drummers know when to pull back, and they're not necessarily
mhm,
super flashy. Chad Smith, Red Hot Chili Peppers,
totally.
pocket, pocket, and more pocket. That is but he does really cool fills and stuff too. But when I listen to Red Hot Chili Peppers, it's about the feeling that he's adding this groove to it, and
It's
you're just
dynamics. It's
yeah.
just it's finesse and dynamics over number of notes.
Dave Grohl, another classic example.
Well, so that one's kind of tricky too, because I've done a bunch of covers of Queens of the Stone Age stuff and Foo Fighters stuff, and he's tricky because he calls himself not a good drummer, and he's I'm such a meat and potatoes drummer. Da, 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 da. But then if you watch that Queens of the Stone Age song "No One Knows,"
Mhm.
for instance. Dun, 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 you know. So one of the chorus fills is like 164 BPM herta back and forth from like you know, like and then if you watch like their first tour when he was actually playing drums for them, and you like slow it down and you watch him play it, he's playing them without even using wrist. It's just all arm. And you're like, even if I pull out like the most technique I could possibly pull out and just use fingers and be as nimble as possible, I can't play Hertz's that fast. And he
Yeah,
just does it with his full arms. And you're like, I
it
don't
is
know how you
impressive
do
how
this.
he can do a herta with, because I've seen video of him playing that particular fill, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, he really is just like, and it just like,
And you slow it down and it's da 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 with like the perfect gaps and everything. And you're
yeah,
just like, this guy has a lot of technical technique. Um, and it's like, but he fits it all. Like I can only like imagine what he could do with that if he wanted to just like be that flashy.
oh
Um,
yeah, yeah,
like if he wanted to go crazy, he could. But the thing
yeah.
is that like rock drums, what makes a good rock drummer is like feel.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, feeling and just know, yeah, it's just knowing when to play and when not to play.
yeah,
I remember when I was first starting in music and just playing with, metal bands and my old metal band toy and all that stuff, playing with Kyle. And the one of the things that was really impressive to us as kids when we were listening back in the new metal days, um was when bands would stop completely and let it breathe for a millisecond, for like a half a rest or
yeah. A
whatever, and then
beginner's
go back
mind had a
into it.
lot of that.
Oh, we loved it. We loved that. We love stops.
Sometimes with a little ride bell hit.
Yes, yes, yes. And God, my drums were so dumb. I had so many stupid drums. Like I had little tiny little rototoms. I had two Chinas because every drummer loves Chinas. I had two on each side. I had two, like several cowbells. And then I bought, and then and then I bought the dumb. If you use this, I apologize, but still, like, you don't need to use this fucking thing. Okay, it's the fucking I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the reverse bell that you put on the ride, where it's like the bell flips over. You can screw on the bell, and it's
Like
just
a little
like,
bowl.
yeah, it's like a little bowl, but it's like reverse, so it sits up like this, like this, and so you hit it,
Mhm.
and so you hit when you hear that is the most annoying sound. I had it, and I fucking love that thing. I was like, oh
Oh
man,
my gosh. But like obnoxiousness aside, um, I was just like always enamored with your playing. Um, because you were so solid. You were so like, I don't know, there's so many people that could do so many sick fills, but they like don't land on the one.
it's
You
hard to
know,
land on the one. I
they
still I
they
have
like
trouble.
rush, they pull, they like, you know, and like I don't know. And I think part of it is I just have to tell myself all this stuff because like I am not a technical drummer. I didn't start when I was in marching band when I was 14 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have like all the crazy rudiments. Like I don't have the option of flair. And so like all I have focused on for the last 4 years is just like how do I just be as good as I can with like the small set of tools that I have,
I would
basically.
argue, that all you need is, just have a good familiarity with tempo, and keeping tempo and rhythm, and a passion. That's it. Those are only two
Mhm.
things I feel like a drummer needs. Everything else can be learned. And I mean, some people are better with their hands than others, but you know, I say this all the time. It's like you can learn drums, you can learn guitar, you can learn anything you want. Just it's only a matter of time. Like an
Mhm.
80-year-old, 88-year-old grandma could learn Tool. It
Yeah.
just will depend on how much time she puts into it, and but
And
eventually it takes, again, if she has passion for it and is dedicated, she'll learn it.
Yep. And that's like because of like the various things that I have done that people like want to do, things like having a film career and making a record and being in a band that plays shows. Like we've played almost 30 shows in the last like year and a
That's
half.
great.
So we're just like we're playing all the time, um and it's like those things just take effort, and you can't like fake the passion for it. Like playing drums on a stage is like maybe my favorite thing to do. I like people in Portland say that I'm like the smiliest drummer in town, and they're like every time I get off stage at every show, somebody comes up to me and says, "I've never seen a drummer smile that much before," and it's amazing. And like,
That's
because it's
amazing.
just so fucking fun. I don't know if I can say that word. Sorry, but
No, you can say fucking.
okay, cool.
It's fucking shit, cunt ass bitch. Okay, yeah, it's totally fine.
But it's like because it's that fun, I play and I work on it. And like, I met someone recently and saw one of their shows and was like so inspired by their music. And they tend to have like a rotating drummer. And I like went up to them and I was just like, if you ever need a drummer, you let me know. And I have spent almost every day practicing their record so that if I get that call, I will already know their album.
that's amazing. That's exactly
And
what you need to do.
and it's just like you only do that because you love it.
Yeah,
And like I wish that I knew how to play instruments that like made notes. Like
same.
piano would be cool. I have a guitar that a guitar maker made for me as a trade for film work once, and it's like such a beautiful Telecaster. It's like all my guitar friends are like, "That's such a pretty guitar," and it never gets played because it's like I know how to play like 15 chords, and
I don't.
I can't even switch between them well, and so I just like have this thing, and I'm like, I wish I could play that thing, and it's like the reality is that it sits really low on my list of things that I wish.
Yeah,
And so the things that are at the top of the list are what get time.
yeah, and
And it's like,
and it's and it sucks. The older we get, we have less and less time, and
totally.
so we got to get picky.
Mhm.
You got to get picky of what you're wanting to get into and spend your
Yeah.
time in.
Yeah. I mean, I
So,
kind of feel in this sense, I'm like kind of lucky because I'm single and live alone. And so I have that time. Like if I
oh
want
yeah,
to, I can play drums from 6 p.m. until midnight. I have an electric kit in my living room, and then I have my actual kit in my studio in my backyard. And like I can just play. I can skip dinner and like just play drums. And I don't have anybody, to like,
that
I
is an
don't have
advantage.
to.
That is an
Yeah.
advantage, and yeah, it's whoever puts in the most time will come and reap the benefits. That's just
Mhm.
kind of how it. That's kind of how it is, and then yeah. So you're in a good spot. You're in a great spot.
Yeah. I honestly just feel like I'm making up for lost time because I didn't play all throughout my 20s and even into my 30s. Like, but like I mean, I met you when I was like 20 years old, and or we were 20 years old,
Yeah.
and like um and I have literally wanted to play drums ever since. Like I was like
Well, you're doing it. You are
doing it.
absolutely doing it, and
Heck
it's
yeah.
just again the album's not out yet, is it, or is it?
No, we have a single coming out in 13 days as of the recording of this anyway. September 1st, the single comes out. We have a 7-inch record that we're selling on Bandcamp. And just because it'd be fun to make a 45. And
Yeah.
and also Melanie, our singer, who like writes most of the music and stuff, and is very much like the face of the band. um she is like so much from like the classic vinyl spinning like 60s and 70s
I mean, y'all have the look. Y'all have the look
stuff.
down, by the way. The look
Thank you.
is
Yeah,
down.
it's cool. I feel like they have the look and then I just kind of wear all black.
Hey, hey, that comes with
But
anything.
that's true. um but like she spins vinyl at like DJ nights sometimes, and like a lot of her friends have to see these immense vinyl collections, um and they like very much live that life. And so that was like a huge inspiration in us getting like vinyls pressed and stuff for
Mhm.
this, especially the 7-inch. And so the 7-inch drops, and also the songs come out streaming everywhere. The 2 singles come out on September 1st, and then the whole record comes out September 17th.
Nice.
And
So,
that's like Spotify, Tidal, TikTok, Instagram,
awesome. Awesome.
Bandcamp,
So
all
what
that,
is
Apple
so now
Music.
that you're out playing shows, you played about 30 shows. Is there any like what's the craziest thing? Is there a crazy thing that happens, like a crazy fan jumping on stage and being all drunk and dumb and anything like that, or you haven't experienced that yet?
No, I mean, our crowds have been really good for the most part. Like, we definitely, being like an all kind of like femme band, um, we've been like harassed after the shows
Oh,
before. Um, people like insisting that they help us take our gear down. And it was just like, no, thank you. You don't need to touch these. It's fine.
we
I
got
got
it.
it. This is, yeah, like that. Like just drunk people being like, oh, well, um, but I don't know. One of the funnest things though was we became a Ramones cover band for like one night. And it's so ridiculous that it makes for a really good story, but in the moment I was like, why are we doing this? Because we put like 6 weeks into learning the entire first Ramones record from front to back, like note for note, because there was like a benefit show
Ah,
of
okay.
us and 2 actual Ramones cover bands who like know all their stuff. And so we wanted to hang, and we wanted to more than just hang. We wanted to like really
Kick their ass.
like, yeah, kind of. I mean, we just wanted to like show up and have people go like, whoa, didn't know they could do this, and we did.
That's
And
awesome.
at one point, um for I can't remember what song it was anymore, but we had there's a go-go dancing place across the street that Melanie sometimes dances at.
Oh,
And so she got all of her go-go dancing friends to come over and rush the stage like 2/3
oh
of the way into
wow.
our show. And so we had like 7 go-go dancers on the stage, and the whole thing was shaking, and the cymbals were like almost falling over. Um
That's amazing.
and then they spent the rest of the show like front and center, just like having a dance party. And that was really fun.
Wow. Anytime you can get a little bit of extra help with dancers, that's always
Yeah.
good.
That's the thing, is that like our record, like, because you've heard it, but like our record is very much like, um it's not like modern punk. It's more like, I mean, it's more closely related to like 60s
Yeah.
like yay yay music.
Yeah,
And
that's what when I heard,
um
I was actually surprised, and it was like I was like, this sounds like the birth of punk.
yeah, it's like glam punk, and it comes from, and that's a Melanie thing. That's just like, she is so authentically that person, that like all of the stuff that she writes feels like directly inspired by like all the records that she grew up with.
And
And
it's refreshing because in today's, and nothing, not to knock today's, I don't want to act like that old man on the porch with just screaming at kids with the skateboards, but like in today's modern, it's just getting more and more pristine, more and more,
yeah.
and that's also because people are becoming more talented, and they have a
Hmm.
lot more to draw back on, as opposed to people from like 50 years ago, or even you or I. Kids are just becoming more and more proficient in
Hmm.
in their instrument, which is great. Um, and everything is sounding more and more clean and edited
Yeah.
and cut and everything like that. And
Yeah.
I was just like, but there's something special about something sounding really raw and not perfect,
Hmm.
you know?
Well, the other thing about it too is like, that was really important for us to have that kind of like raw feeling,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, like, it still is a punk record, and it still is like, it's just on the glam punk side, but like the refinement, I think, is in the songwriting, in that like the hooks are there, and the
Yeah.
harmonies are there, and the melodies are memorable. And like my friend George, who
Yeah.
like he filled in for us on guitar when we played at Mississippi Studios, which is like one of the
Nice.
cooler venues out here.
I love George.
And yeah, it was a dream to play with them. I always wanted to, and I finally got to. And but he was saying as he was learning the songs, he was just like, it was easy because every single song had something memorable about it that
Mhm.
distinguished it from all the other songs.
Yeah.
So he didn't have a hard time memorizing our entire set list in like 2 weeks. Um, and I think that that's it. It's like less refined in presentation, but the material has a lot of thought behind it. And I think
Yeah.
like Melanie is like, she wouldn't say it, but like I think she's a brilliant songwriter. And so
I
that's
mean,
like,
I nailed the sound, nailed the sound, nailed the
yeah.
songs. The songs, like you said, they, when we stopped becoming a progressive rock band and we actually started talking to real songwriters out here in Nashville, one of the things that a very proficient songwriter would say is like, you need to make songs that speak, and that could mean that's a very vague term, but when you hear it, you go, oh, that makes sense because, it doesn't need to be the most technical sounding thing. It just needs to speak to that person. That
Yeah.
guitar riff, is that guitar riff speaking? Is the bass line speaking? Is the drums speaking? Like, is it speaking to the person that's listening to it? And there are parts in the whole record actually sounds there, like you said before, it's just every there are pieces in there that can speak to anybody who's interested in guitar, anyone who's interested in drums, the vocals, like those things can speak to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. Thank
yeah,
you.
great.
Just yeah, and it's so amazing that it's almost out. Like I can't wait. The
How long did
promotional
it take?
part of it has been exhausting, but
so
um
so how long did it take to actually make the record? Like,
like the engineering phase didn't take too long. We just kind of broke it up in chunks. And this is like where you kind of have to like make do with what you have. It's like we don't have a like my studio. I mean, I'm lucky to even have a studio. Um, but it's like a single room, so you can't really track things together. And so we spent like one weekend just laying out to tempo all of our songs as a band and recording it all together
mm,
as a skeleton. And then we just went back and replaced things one at a time. So that way nobody's playing just to themselves. Because I've
right.
demoed things out where it's just like me and a click and nothing. And I'm just like, all right, here
Hey,
we go. I'm just going to play this song to silence and imagine the vocals in my head while I do it. Um,
yeah, you
but
lose
like
you can lose the feeling that way.
totally. I don't know if you've ever recorded like that, but it's just
Yeah,
anxiety.
I've
It's like,
I've done a few studio things where it's just they do the drums first, but I
yeah.
definitely prefer at least having someone to play with
Mhm.
uh during, if they're just recording drums and not bass or whatever, like
Totally.
give me something so I can feel, so I can feel something, to feel that
Yeah,
this person is, because again, it's like a conversation when you're playing music
absolutely.
together.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you're just having this conversation with your bandmates, and people can feel that. People feel it through the music.
Hmm. Totally. And so yeah, we just kind of basically we spent a weekend just like laying down the base of everything. And then I spent a couple days going back through. I just deleted all the drum tracks and just recorded new drums to the performances that we did in the studio the week before. And so like the engineering, just replacing everything one at a time, drums, bass, guitars, then all the vocals and the backups. Um, that didn't take very long. That was the short part of it. That was like maybe a month, month and a half. But that was also like because of people's schedules and
Yeah,
like, when can you come in to put like 4 hours into getting your parts wrapped up and stuff
right.
like that. And so that was the easy part. And then it took again, indie record, not a big budget. Like my friend Grace in London, Grace Banks, who's like mostly been doing a lot of engineering and is getting into producing and a lot of, well, not getting into, I mean, she's been in the industry for a while now. And she's been interviewed by a lot of publications about like being a woman in a man's industry and stuff like this. And she is an incredible engineer and an incredible producer. She's also an amazing singer and songwriter. But I just had her mix the record, and she had to just like fit it in between all of her studio gigs. And she does a lot of engineering on like big stuff out in England, and so she just had to fit it in when she could, and that took a couple months probably total, and couple weeks to get through the mastering process with this amazing gal named Amy Dragon out here. She's like
Dragon.
a local
Awesome.
legend. Yeah, and it's so funny. We were like getting drinks a little while ago, and I found out I don't know, like sometimes you hear names like that and you think like, oh, this is like a pseudonym. But that was like her name when she was in grade school, and it's just like,
So wait, that's her real name? Like her last
yeah,
name is Dragon?
Dragon.
No shit. That's so freaking cool.
And I'm sure she's tired of it, but I think it's cool as hell.
You don't fuck with anybody with the last name Dragon. It's just you don't.
I mean, she lives up to it too. She's just like one of the coolest people I think I've ever met. And so it's like we've become friends through the process, and she's really good at what she does. And she's like, I mean, I heard her name like the first year I moved to Portland. I already knew that like she was in the music industry out here and like really well respected. And it took 7 years to have a reason to work with her. So, so all in all, I mean, if you add it all together, it took 6 months to put the record together.
So, so now that you're in a band with everybody, and you're constantly practicing and listening to music and whatnot, how long has it taken for you to show them any sort of video game soundtrack that you're into and try to convince them that this shit is awesome? Like, how long did it take you to send them Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack?
So here's the thing. There are very few people that I can share both of these worlds with.
I know.
And that's what makes this so special, Shane. Is that like, I mean, like last week I was sending you multiple Final Fantasy 14 tracks of just like, look how freaking cool this song is that I just like came across while I'm playing this game.
Soken has become one of my favorites. Like, just because I haven't even played 14. I have not put it. I've never played 14, but through my live stream, I get sent 14 tracks, and every single one that I have listened to, I'm like, this is incredible. This is an incredible song.
Absolutely. And I've been playing Final Fantasy 14 for like the last couple of years. I beta tested it and then just like never touched it again. Because I had a life and needed to make friends and stuff in real life. And now like things are a little bit more like stable, so I could put more time into video games, But over the course of the last couple of years, all my nerd friends have gotten texts from me of just like, look at this song, look at this song. And like, like we've been Nobuo Uematsu fans forever. And like since the 90s. And I've been to the Distant Worlds concerts twice. Like Final Fantasy music is just my favorite. And but I went back because I was curious, because I knew that he didn't do all the music. He did like the original main theme and like some other stuff for 14, but I like knew that he didn't do all of it. And so I went back to YouTube recently and just looked up every one of my favorite tracks from 14 and the entire time I've been playing, which is so much music. And
Like 400 tracks. It's
it's is
ridiculous.
a lot. I mean, and there's just the main game, and then there are like 5 expansions. Every one of them is the equivalent of like a 60-hour Final Fantasy game. There's so much story. And like every single song, I shit you not, not one song was not made by Masayoshi Soken. Every single song that stuck with me in the last 2 years of playing this game was written by him. And it's just incredible. Like I didn't know his name until doing that little research trip. And like now I'm just obsessed.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite tracks is the twinning.
The twinning.
Yeah, the twin. I don't know if that's the actual name of the track, but like
Uh-huh.
the twinning is, I think, the battle or the expansion. I can't remember. But the twinning, it is
Um,
incredible, and it's like a rock song, but it's like it's written like an orchestra. And he does the same thing with his orchestra, his with the actual orchestra. He writes it in a way that's like almost like a rock song.
yeah,
Like it's like it speaks to you, like I said before, like it's speaking to you. It's not the most impressive, technically every whatever. It's like it is
mhm.
it's basically a rock song but made with orchestral instruments.
Totally. And that's like what they've always done so well with like boss fights in
Oh yeah.
general and stuff. And like, yeah, the twitting, I just brought it up and listened to it for a second. I was like, okay, yeah, I remember
Yeah.
this because that's a level 80 dungeon, and I'm currently in the main story at that level because I took
Oh.
so much time and brought like a bunch of characters up and did side stuff. So I haven't caught up to like the most recent content yet. And that's like where I am in the game right now. But
There,
there's so many cool, like the light warden battle that I sent you recently, that's got
yeah.
like the main theme is like a vocoder that's like saying things, like there are words and you can't hear them because it's like a vocoder and it's more for effect and tone than anything, but you're
Yeah.
just like, who thought to make this whole thing like a voice and a vocoder instead of just like a regular synth or piano line? And it's just like, who does that in a video game? This is amazing. This is like, it's so cool. And like, and I sent you that like great Google library one where it's like that jazz tune that it
Yeah.
like
Just
switches
switches.
time signatures and tempos 3 times by the time it gets to like a minute 10 in the song. And you're just like the music nerd in you just is like, it's amazing. And then all of a sudden it just goes to like a chill, like kind of like two feeling, like
Yeah.
halftime,
Because
like hip
right in the
hop kind
street,
of
like,
thing.
yeah,
And
it's super. It's like, man, it's so good.
yeah.
It's really good. And I'm because when I first heard that Nobuo was leaving the franchise back way back when, I was super scared because
Mhm.
not only did Nobuo leave, the creator of Final Fantasy left too. I'm like, where is this gonna go?
Yeah.
Because Final Fantasy till 10, like basically 10 was the last like the last one that was with the original people who took care of Final Fantasy all those years.
Oh,
And then
was it
from
really?
yeah, or I think they might have done 11, but 11 no one really talks
Hmm.
about because it was online.
I
But it
thought
was
they
like
did 12, and I thought they did
so
12.
that's
Hmm.
when no, that's when they both left.
Hmm.
So 12 was different director.
I see.
I think Nomura actually might have done that one. But I can't remember. It's different director and a different
12 was complicated. 12 was like Game of Thrones, but like too hard to follow.
Oh, I could not follow. I could not follow. You know what? Like my biggest gripe with 12, 12 is a good game. I love the battle system. The battle system was great.
Hmm.
Really addictive, and I liked like the dungeon crawling aspect of it. Um, but what really bothered me about 12 was like none of these characters are like I don't care about any one of them. Like besides Balthier. Like Balthier was like sort of the Han Solo. And then also the story is basically Star Wars kind of. Basically, you got your princess
The
and you got your Han Solo character and that really hot elf looking girl. I guess could be Wookiee
bunny ears,
with
right?
the bunny ears. Yeah,
Yeah, that's That's the bunny ears and like the kind of like handsome Han Solo-y guy.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I remember from playing that
Yeah,
game.
because they're the only characters that actually were interesting, and every other
Mhm.
character is just kind of like I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care, and so therefore, like I didn't know what really was going on in the story. Um,
It's also
and
like kind of the same thing that bothers me about The Mandalorian first season.
I still
Um
have not watched The Mandalorian yet.
oh, you haven't watched
I
it?
need, yeah,
Okay.
but
Well, this isn't like details about the show, but like my biggest gripe with 12 when I was playing it, and I didn't play it when it first came out. I revisited it when I was like back in film school. Because I had it on like a hacked PSP, so I could play it like in my car and stuff.
yeah,
And like all the bad guys are these like evil like emperor types who like sit on a council, and they all have helmets on, and their voices are all muffled by the helmets,
oh
and
yeah,
you can only tell who's who by like, oh, this is the one with the extra spiky shoulders on his armor, and this one's the one that has like the rounder helmet and it's like slightly more red than black, and like and so all these bad guys are like faceless, and I'm like, how am I supposed to like feel things about
yeah.
these faceless people? And the Mandalorian, maybe it's because of like my inability to like read emotion on people's
You're
faces,
absolutely
but
right
like,
though. In 12, yeah, you're just kind of like, who am I supposed to hate here? Like, give me what is my
yeah.
motivation?
Mhm.
And that's another thing about 12 I didn't really care for was like it was like there's no motivating factor here. Like the
Yeah.
Empire, and then are we just trying to not to, I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it like I
Controversial opinion. I loved 13.
we differ on that. We differ.
I mean, 13 too, not as much. Lightning Returns, I think, was the third one.
Yeah.
I played that for like an hour and stopped, but I liked 13. I just took it for what it was, and I think I was just desperate for a Final Fantasy game. But
I think we all were at that point. And I think that's another
I
reason why
thought
I was
15
like,
was good.
I thought I love 15. I thought 15, like that's another controversial one where people either hated it or loved it.
Mhm.
I liked it. I because I'm a big fan of open world games, and I was really I was really surprised, number one, and but really just like, oh, okay. It was nice to see Final Fantasy try to go into that sort of Western style open world uh
Mhm.
way, and kind of like merge the two together. Not to mention, like, you know, I took 15 as sort of, this is a giant love letter to the entire series. And most of that is because you'll see, there you'll okay, like the dark world like comes out of no, like the very end, you're like, okay, this is like 6 and 4,
Mhm.
and like
Yeah.
uh so there's that, and then of course, riding in the car, and listening to all, collecting all the soundtracks to all the other games,
Yep.
and being able to listen to it on your CD player that you carry around with you, and like it's just like I enjoyed this because it was just saying like, this is our appreciate, like we're appreciating this series together by
Yeah.
experiencing a new game.
It's also like I thought it was really emotional, and I also thought that the voice acting was incredible.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
and like it's just, I don't know. It's not a game I would replay, but I also like how whoever was listening to the first half of this podcast has long stopped listening by now.
No, I think
But
but that's the beauty. That's the beauty of my channel. It's like, I'm a musician. I've been a musician my whole life, but I'm also a gamer, and I love those
yeah.
two things together. Therefore,
Mhm.
we're merging them together. God damn it! And so you
We
either
should do
get on
5 minutes
board,
of one, 5 minutes of the other, 5 minutes of one. Okay.
right? You either get on board or just get out. Get
It's
out of
true.
here.
Just
You
get out
know?
of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is
Um,
because I'm actually, for the last, couple times that I've done, it's been a while since we've done a podcast, but like I
mhm.
want, I've gotten on TikTok for the last 3 years, and through TikTok I've actually met a lot more people like you and me who are musicians who love music and making music, but we also, our inspiration comes from these soundtracks of video games. And when I try to explain that to people who have never touched, like, who don't have that same inspiration, they look at me like I'm an idiot. Or not like an idiot, but they just look at me like, oh, really? You like, you listen to old Super Nintendo. Wow, that's really cute. That's cute.
That was the thing that I was so impressed by actually when we first met, was that like you were like, I basically learned drums by like listening to old like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy soundtracks and stuff. And I was like, that's brilliant. That is so amazing. And so like a lot of my like early drumming came from like Final Fantasy 7 and 8 playlists and Mega Man stuff, like,
oh yeah,
and it's just, this is so much better than a metronome.
exactly.
And it's just like, I don't need to play what's being played here. I can make up my own stuff and figure out different beats that work with the same melodies. And
exactly.
and
Well,
like,
and I will put, and I've said this in our text message, but I've also had a conversation the last podcast I did with Chris Lombardi Acapella, he's a producer, songwriter, but he's mostly known for his acapella versions of like all of our favorite Super Nintendo games and all that stuff, like Pokemon. He's really been like the Pokemon games and stuff like that. So he's getting really popular with that on TikTok. Anyway, so he was on my podcast and we were talking about this freaking subject about video game music and video game soundtracks. And we both agree that video game soundtracks probably are some of the best, if not the best, written songs ever. And he brought up Moon Theme from DuckTales. And I'm like, yes, that song is probably one of the best songs ever written, ever. Just because it doesn't, it only has like four, I think it's like 4 different tracks, and that's it. And you get it, you feel it, because the lead line is just, it's just like, you can, I don't know, it's just perfect. And so I put that friggin' song against any other song, and you can tell me that song doesn't. And it's from a little Nintendo game about ducks on a moon.
It's so much more than ducks on a moon.
Of course.
You watch yourself.
And canceled. Canceled. How dare you?
But totally. I mean, that's the thing, is that like when you especially if you think about music and like the kind of like pop terms, like obviously I have like so much respect for people that just like write stuff and get experimental and just do like what they feel like doing. And it's kind of like a painter or something. Like what you see on a gallery wall is such a small percentage of the things that they create, and the experiments they make and like all that stuff. But like the music that really sticks with you is like, there's no formula for it. Like it's, I mean, the kind of like the LA scene and maybe Nashville too, like they've learned how to like write a pretty catchy pop song, but a lot of the time it's like the artist personality that's selling it just as much as anything else.
Yeah.
But like the quality is very high in like writing hooks that people remember. And I always am just like amazed, especially by video game stuff, where it's like, write me a song that is going to play over and over and over again for like 10 hours, and you are going to hear it for 10 hours.
And you're not going to get sick of it.
Exactly.
Because like video games, and I've made this argument too, is like video games are different in terms of like, and the reason why I'm beating, like people have, I've had friends who are in the social media marketing space, and they've tried to help me. And a lot of stuff is really, really smart advice. And I've, tried to my best to heed it. But some of them have asked me like, why don't you start doing like other forms of music, like people like the wider world would know. And I was like, I'm going to beat this to a dead horse. Like, I fell in love with video game music because when I was playing video games as a kid and I'm listening to this music, it's different than anything else, because in that moment I feel I'm not just playing a video game. I am in the story. I'm I'm the hero in this moment, and this soundtrack that I'm listening to is aiding my imagination as well. And so when I hear those tunes, it takes me back to that nostalgia. I'm basically just describing nostalgia, but it's a different kind of nostalgia. It's me, in that moment becoming like defeating Kefka, and just like getting Sephiroth and all that stuff. It's like these soundtracks are just describe. I don't know. They're different. They're just different. I can't explain it. I can't. Dang it! I wish I could explain it, but
I mean, I think that like all of the like storytelling and music is storytelling, and music is like the whole point of music is to invoke feeling of some kind, and it doesn't have to be lyrical meaning. It can just be like it's innate in like culture by culture, but like some chord progressions make you feel sad, and some chord progressions make you feel happy or triumphant or determined or whatever. And it's so powerful because you have like there's a little bit in film scoring. I mean, there's a lot in film scoring, but I feel like film scores are trying to do something a little different. But in video games, the storytelling has been always like a little more heavy-handed, I think, in video games until recently. And by recently, I mean like the last 15 years. But like all of these musical pieces that invoke these emotions and like the nostalgia and the memories and stuff like that. The other thing, I mean, they're intertwining themselves with greater feelings. And when we watch movies and when we play video games, we're applying life lessons, and we're applying that like the value of friendship and camaraderie and community that we all feel in real life. We're having those feelings like reinforced through the stories of video games, and we all want to feel like the decisions we make matter, and we all want to feel like the effort that we put into things will leave the world better than when we found it and stuff like that. And I think that when you put all this music into like the heroic journey that you spend dozens and dozens of hours in, as opposed to just like a 90-minute film or whatever, that's like it's tapping a much more visceral, like ingrained place in your psyche, because you've spent so much time with it.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Whatever she said, that's what I meant to say. It's really amazing. And then also tying that into your love of music, playing music is just like, that is where I honestly feel like, just like you, I think that most of my capability on drums came from like that connection of suddenly, like, you're not just like the character in the story, you are like playing, you're part of the music now, you're able to sit down, you're able to play with these songs and fit into it. And it's just like another level of connection with something that you love. And when you merge things that you love, that's where you build like authenticity, and like, to kind of like wrap it around. Like, I feel like I'm so different from my bandmates, that like, but I think that that's a good thing. Like, we're all pretty different. Like Melanie is like just this authentic, amazing character that is perfect to be the face of this project. But then like Alia has her more like modern girl power, like musical loves, and she loves like Joni Mitchell, and she loves like Le Tigre and stuff like that. And then like Tara, our bass player, is much younger than we are, and has just like an entirely different perspective on things also. And then there's me, who just like grew up on Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins, and like not in like the femme punk movement at all, and not just like
have so little exposure. I mean, not anymore, but like had so little exposure to a lot of that music. But it's like um the amalgamation of all the different interests is
Yeah.
what makes like something unique. That's what makes new sounds. That's what makes like um that's what makes something that you've never heard
Yeah.
before. It's like,
Just
oh wow, let's like a classic punk rock band with a drummer who really loves video game music. And
yeah.
like and a lot of like the fills and a lot of the stuff and just like the decisions you make in music um come from all of the things that you love in life.
Yeah. It's just it's a beauty about playing with a band, you know, just all of your personalities and quirks and, you know, traumas, like, you know, all of the things, traumas, because like, let's face it, like anyone who's playing, you know, in music has some kind of, you know, trauma somewhere deep down in there, and they all come together, and again, you just speak to one another through music, and it's
Mhm.
just, it's a beautiful thing. I miss it. I miss it sometimes, but at the same time, I'm just like, I'm way too old to get back into like that
Way too
that kind
old
of, I
at the
can't, I okay to
ripe
get
old age of
started.
like 38.
I were okay. I'm like, that whole thing with Five Knives was amazing and serendipitous and all fell in place perfectly with all of our lives. And if anything like that were to happen again, I would be very happy. But it's just, I don't know. Like I'm not searching for it. Like,
Yeah.
and the best things happen when
Well,
you're not searching for it. Let me tell you.
that's true. And like I think about this a ton. Because like you with your Five Knives experience, and like, you know, the festival things that you've done and the people you've opened for and played with, you end up with like a community of professional musicians,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, people that like make a living doing this thing. And I think that in especially like in like a Western culture, we assign value to things based on money and if we can make a living with it and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And that's
Unfortunately.
something that I'm butting up with real hard in promoting our record is that like I have a film career. Our singer just finished a master's degree, I think her second master's degree,
Jesus.
to teach. You know, and like
Man,
our
that'd be
base
super freaking cool if my teacher was in a punk band. Like, I never had any cool teachers like that ever.
no, she is the coolest teacher, and all of her students are amazing. And it's the last teaching
She'd be
gig
my
she had.
favorite teacher. She'd be my favorite teacher. Oh, tell me about the show that you played. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
she was teaching all of these like grade school kids at a French school before, and she would tell us stories of band practice of like these cool little like punk rock kids that have like crazy hair and their parents are cool and like and yeah, she would I wish that I had her as a teacher also. Like I just like it's kind of like when you meet someone who like has a like a young teenage kid or something and you're like God, I wish I had a parent as cool as you. Like, I love my parents. But like, it's yeah, it's really neat. But like, anyway, back to the thought of like, you know, our bass player is an engineer. Um, you know, we all have careers. I'm the only
yeah.
person without a master's degree in my band. Um,
Wow.
it's, it's
Gosh.
pretty wild.
That's
Um, and and so
that's a little isolating. Like, everyone's, you're like, Jesus, all these people are
right.
really freaking smart.
I went to film school. um,
But hey,
and
that's tough work. Okay.
no, it's
Wait.
not.
Okay.
I mean, working in the film industry is tough work, yeah, um, but anyway, like it's just like how much do we need to make a living with this, you know? And it's like I have friends who have been in big bands from like Taking Back Sunday to All American Rejects to like, you know, my friend Isaac played for Seal and
Oh,
oh, you know
good old,
Isaac.
good
Yeah.
old Izzy. I see him all the time on
Yeah,
Instagram.
Izzy. They're like Seal and Banks and like he was on Tegan and Sarah's last tour and um out there doing stuff, and there's just so many people like killing it and playing with so many people and making a living and like making it work. um and I'm like, so because of being surrounded by that, my first instinct is like, oh, I'm in a band, we're making a record, I this is what you do. You promote the shit out of it. You like get a live session on KEXP up in Seattle. You like, try to get a Tiny Desk concert. You do what you can, see if you can get written up by Paste Magazine and like all this stuff. Just because it's like a instinct, because it's just like what all my friends do.
Yeah.
Get written up in Consequence and all this stuff. And
Just
so
get
I like,
word of mouth going.
yep. And I kind of like started burning myself out recently with like the promotion part of
Oh,
the
it's
record.
the it's the most grueling. It's ever since I've really done like this, dude. Just trying to like make my live stream more and more of a thing. Like the social media aspect of it is the most grueling part of it. Like I love the actual playing of it, but like every day I'm editing some video. Like I'm editing
Mhm.
something just every day, and I've made it like sort of like a job right now. But that's the most grueling part. That's the stuff that gets you most burnt out, is like the actual promotion, dealing with just promoting yourself. That's the most grueling part.
Yeah, and the thing I think personally, maybe you'll agree, that is the most like burnout aspect of it is the idea that like the well is bottomless. Like there's always more people you can reach out to. There's always more journalists who write up on stuff like this that you can reach out to. There's always more, like for me, there's always more radio stations. There's always more um like like blog people and podcast people and venues and like local promoters and stuff. There's always more people that you can write tailored messages to, saying, I have a band, please listen, and if you
Yeah,
like it, maybe we can do something together. And
yeah,
like so it's like you could spend, all four of us in the band could spend 6 hours, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week just promoting. Um, or we could spend none of that time and just reach out to like 10, 15 people and call it a day and be like, you know what, let's just sell our record at shows and we'll eventually sell out of them. And it'll be on Spotify and maybe it'll get put on a playlist or whatever. And then just do the band as like a hobby. Because at the end of the day, we're having fun.
yeah,
And like,
absolutely.
we play shows and people who are there love the shows and they have a good time and they tell us how much fun they had. And like that could be enough.
Yeah,
Like
uh,
we don't need to get like a national tour opening for whoever,
yeah. Because
like,
at the end of the day, it's really just about, if you're having a good time, if you're passionate about what you're doing, that translates. And
mhm,
a lot of successful stories, it's just really all comes down to luck and
yeah,
preparation. And
yeah,
if you're solid in what you're doing, and you're just enjoying playing out, and putting stuff out there and getting yourself out there when you can, and just having fun with it, who knows what is around the corner.
yeah.
Maybe some more established punk band was at your show one time, and they're like, wow, really like this act, this is really great. Who are these people? And then that's when you start
Totally.
talking, and then like that's how things happen. Like they just happen. I mean, yeah,
It
you
just,
could do your best to put yourself out there, and
yeah.
with emailing and trying to get on different articles and whatnot, which is valuable, sure.
Well, that's the
Um,
thing, is that we live in a society that tells us it's the hustle. We live in a society that's like this. It's like the bootstrap theory of life, where it's just like, no, you got to get out there, you got to hustle. If you're not like working 24/7, you're not doing enough. And like, but a lot of it is luck
it's luck.
and
It is luck.
nepotism and
And it's not, it's
whatever.
like, well, and with the hustle aspect, like I get it, I understand, like the more you put yourself, because it's like the law of if you put yourself out there more, if you have put more time into putting yourself out there more, you have more odds of good luck happening. I get that. But at the same time, it's like, there are how many different creative people, regardless of whether they're playing music or not, are putting themselves out there every single day. I can tell you, I post things every single day, every day, and only a few like get out there and be like, oh, this is nice. And so it's like, and then other people can just put out one really awesome piece of content and it just takes off, and it's like their second time posting something, it's just like, and then their career takes off after one or two posts. It's just like, again, it's like it's the waves of fate. It's like, all you do is just like one day
it's so frustrating in that way. And that's why, again, that's why you have to not do it with like a success mindset.
Right.
You have to do something because you love it. You have to do something because it's just like, if you didn't do it, you would feel empty in some way. And that's like, I just like love, I love playing drums with people. And which is why I just started a second band, and I'm trying to play drums for a third. I just because there's like no pressure. I don't feel pressure.
That's great.
For there to be any kind of like greater success. It's just like, I really like the music this person writes. I would like to be a part of that. And it's like, it's cool. It's kind of like I get asked every once in a while about stage fright and like how do you feel playing shows, and like and I used to feel stage fright because I was like, oh, I don't want to screw up. I don't want to like, I don't want to make myself look whatever. And then something just like clicked in my brain one day. And I think it was like, oh, I was editing something. I did a VR concert series for the Tidal streaming service. And one of the acts was this 3-person girl rock trio, these sisters from Mexico. They're called The Warning. And they're amazing. They're like some of the best performers I've ever seen. And like the thing about them is like how much fun they look like they're having on stage, and like how much they move, and the attitude, and like their facial expressions. Like nobody is just like feet glued to the floor, like playing their instrument, like they're trying to remember how to play their instrument,
Yeah.
And like nobody's inside themselves. They're all outside. They're present, and they're interacting, and they're playing with each other, and they're making eye contact.
It's charisma. It's charisma, and I bring him up. I feel like I bring him up like every podcast, but like you'd think that it's like Lars Ulrich is my favorite drummer, and he's not my favorite drummer. But okay, like technically speaking, no,
he's certainly passionate.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, and it's very rare that you get a very untechnical drummer such as Lars, who like routinely messes up live in stadium shows, like 200,000 people, and just messes up. None of the fills are the same. It's just, but the thing that Lars always brought to the table was charisma and energy, even in his 60s. I mean, he's like, I think he's like 70 now, something like that. And it's, if you're having fun, it translates, and it translates more. It translates more if you have enough charisma. If you have enough charisma to overtake your skill, that translates. So that can translate more than pure skill.
Yep.
And Lars Ulrich is an example of that. The biggest example.
Totally. And I say it to like all of my like bandmates that I play with, is that like, I would rather play a fun show than a perfect show.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
And like, that's what it comes down to. Like, I would rather, like, you can only expect the people in your audience to be as engaged with your music as you are with your music. And like, I think it was editing that stuff with The Warning where I just saw how engaged they were with what they were doing, that I was like, oh, that's right. Nobody wants to watch a musician trying to make sure that they nail the next part, like, right? And so like ever since that moment, like I spend all of my time playing with people outside. Like when I finish playing a song with someone, I can remember every like little thing that all of my bandmates do because I'm spending all my time listening to them and watching them and being like, I get a front row seat to my guitar player's guitar solo. I get to just like watch them.
Yeah.
And I do. And it's fun. And it's like
another thing that helps with stage fright is a few beers before playing. Now, yeah, that definitely helps with the yeah.
Was that your technique?
That's my technique. Yeah. Well, nice. Because like the most nerve-wracking I was ever was when I played with Lindsay L for a little bit, and I was with her about like 6 months, and we had played the NFL draft here in Nashville when it was here, and there were like 500,000 people that we were playing in front of. Like it was something. It was Broadway was like you could not see the end of people. It was so nerve-wracking. It was the biggest show that I ever played, and I just joined her like maybe a month or two prior. And actually, that wasn't the most nervous. That was one of the most nervous I was the first show I played with her, where they just hired me. They just texted me and like, hey, we need a drummer. Someone said you're good. I know such and so, and here you go. And so, would you like to play the Minnesota Vikings show at the halftime show or whatever? I did not play. I have never met these people like in person. And I just flew out and played the halftime show. We played one song. It was John Mayer. So at least it was a song that people, that knew and, whatever. But that was pretty nerve wracking. But the Nashville draft one was pretty, that was the most nervous. But anyway, my whole point in saying that was like, I needed to have, I was like shaking. I needed to have something. So I had a few little whiskeys in there. Brought it down. It brought my confidence up. And so it's like, don't, if you're a bad drunk, do not do that. I'm telling everyone out there. Yeah, if you do not know how to handle your alcohol, do not do that. I fortunately come from a family of alcoholics that know exactly what to do when it comes to handling their alcohol. And on that note, I think I gotta get going, Cara. Gotta go eat dinner.
I think it's funny how many people with the that crazy drummer video, how many people like don't believe that you're drunk.
That's right.
On that note, and it's just like, no, he was wasted.
That was during the time I think I might have. I think it was I maybe I had
6 or 7 drinks deep.
6 or 7 drinks deep, like whiskey. It wasn't like just a few beers. It was that was when we were 20. We were 20 years old, just drinking and partying and raging every night.
It's just funny. I like barely drink anymore. So
same.
I drink soda water with bitters. Maybe bring a beer on stage for fun. CBD soda, a lot of that.
Yeah. I had a beer the other day I had a glass of wine. I had a glass of wine with a friend. I was seeing a friend I hadn't seen in a while. And he's like, would you like some wine? And I was like, sure. He's like, well, we only have box wine. I was like, that's fine. Whatever. I'm no stranger to box wine. Let's get it. It was a nice little rosé. And I was like, oh, I remember this feeling. Oh,
this is good stuff.
Oh, yeah. I should get back into this.
Oh my gosh. I should get back into this. Said nobody ever about drinking alcohol.
And if they did, bad things happen afterwards.
Yeah. Have a good dinner.
I will.
But seriously, thank you for having me. This is really great.
Yeah.
I told my therapist, because I had a therapy appointment like right before this. I was like, honestly, the thing I'm excited for the most is how often do you get to talk to a friend for 2 straight hours where like nobody picks up their phone to like check the text
I know
that came in. It's just like uninterrupted. We get to just chat.
That's why
the number of times you and I have gotten to do that in the last 15 years, 18 years or whatever. It's like not that many. So it's
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring back the podcast. I wanted to start podcasting again because you're absolutely right. It's just like you and me, we're talking and there's no distractions, and it's just I want to get back into trying to get better in the act of conversation, or the art of conversation, and just getting to know new people, like get more in touch with old friends. And so I'm so happy that we got to do this, and it's so good seeing you. And I just love you. You're just awesome. And
I love you too.
thank you so much for just being you. I'm so proud of you. Carl Lancaster, everybody. Okay, one more time. Album's coming out when?
September 17th, all streaming services, the Fauxs, Fauxs. We're also bandcamp.com/the Fauxs, at @the_Fauxs on Instagram.
Also, you have a website?
Not the Fauxs.
Not the Fox. No, what's your personal with your filmography and stuff?
Oh, I don't really have one.
I thought you did.
I mean, I do. I don't really use it.
You don't really use it?
You could find me on Instagram. I personally am Kara the Huntress. That's where you hit me up.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. That's another episode in. Thank you all so much for watching. Peace.